She knew she had been lucky to find herself such a husband. There was certainly nothing particularly outstanding about her, although she considered herself to be reasonably attractive. But surely there must have been many girls of 23, blonde and petite as she was, who would have jumped at the chance to marry the wealthy young artist. Yet it had been her good fortune to win his affection and, ultimately, his proposal. Perhaps because she needed someone so badly, she had been so completely alone since Ben's death. Derek smiled across the table at her. "I'll even gamble a couple of pennies for your thoughts," he said. She returned his smile. "I've been thinking what a lucky girl I am, and wondering about our new home. How far is it to Arundel House?" "About 25 miles," he said. "That is without going through the village of Kennebunkport. We'll take Route 1 and then a cut-off through the woods and turn right at our private road." Marie showed interest. "The idea of a big estate appeals to me after having lived in a tiny apartment for years." Derek's patrician face shadowed slightly. "I hope you'll still feel that way after you see it," he said. "It is isolated, old, and rather lonely." He smiled at her again. "Actually, it's only since meeting you I've had any real desire to go back and live there." "You can't have spent much time there these last few years." He shook his head. "I haven't, but then Aunt Ishbel hasn't encouraged me to come back. She felt I was happier living in New York, and of course it was better for my painting." "Yes," Marie agreed. "I suppose it was." "In the beginning, it helps to be near the dealers," Derek agreed. "But I'd say I've gone beyond that stage. Now I need to settle down to a steady routine of painting with some hard outdoor work on the side to keep me in shape." "Arundel House should be ideal." "It will be with you at my side," he said, his eyes studying her fondly. "The farm is run down a good deal, even though we do have an overseer. I'd like to get it producing again." Marie laughed. "You sound like a landed gentleman already." He smiled wryly. "It must be you. Until now I've always avoided the old place. I suppose I really do have strong roots there. My grandfather had been a sea captain, and when he decided to give his time to lumbering instead of sailing ships, he built Arundel House." "You hadn't told me," Marie said, suddenly aware that Derek had really told her very little about himself or his past. "It's a rather tragic story," Derek sighed. "But you have a right to know the history of Arundel House. As it turned out, my grandfather should have remained at sea. The whole house speaks of his love for the ocean. It stands on a cliff with a magnificent view, and he had an outside balcony built on the roof, complete with the usual captain's walk." "I must go up there first thing," Marie exclaimed. "What a view that must be." Derek's reaction was different than she had expected. He shook his head. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. You see, we've shut off all the top floor of the old place. Aunt Ishbel had it done several years ago when I was away. She claimed it was too much trouble to take care of. Also, that balcony is badly rotted. I wouldn't trust it." Derek paused. "It's caused one tragedy as it is. That's enough." Marie gave him a curious look. "What sort of a tragedy?" Derek gave her a thin smile. "I can see the only way to satisfy your curiosity is to tell you the whole story." The waitress interrupted Derek by arriving at this spot with their dinners. It was not until their coffee had been served that Derek saw fit to resume his story of the old house. "My grandfather was still a relatively young man when he built Arundel House. He found living ashore irksome. For a time he kept himself busy building what he undoubtedly considered a mansion. Certainly it contained many features he'd adopted from old castles he'd seen in Europe. My father was born soon after my grandparents moved into the house." Derek paused. "As I've heard it, they hoped for other children, but there were none." "Big families were the fashion in those days," Marie said.